And we are live on the air, and this is Patricia with a Y, the Director of Operations for the FreebirdProjectShop.com. It's only going to be known for that for a short time longer. What we're planning on doing is on the final day of this great, wonderful grand opening conference, we are going to be announcing our new name because we did have to change it up from the Freebird Project, but we found a name that, oh my God, you are going to love. You are going to love the symbolism of. So you will want to tune in on November 25th and find out what that new name is as we get going. And unfortunately, I'd like everybody out there to get your good thoughts going and prayers if that's what your tradition is. Sasha is currently in the hospital, and we are hoping that she will get better, but it doesn't sound that great. She was quite dehydrated when she went in over the weekend, and she wasn't feeling so great this morning. So I do hope that you'll keep her in your thoughts and prayers as we go through this evening. And we are here with our returning guest. It is JJ Conway, and she is the financial expert with such great advice. She has been a single mother. She has gone through so much of the trauma and trials and tribulations in life, and she's come up on top, and she's here to share her tips and her story and her expertise with us tonight. So welcome to the show again, JJ.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you so much. And I definitely will lift up prayers for Sasha. And even as I'm excited about this new name announcement coming soon, my heart is a little bit heavy for her. She has labored so hard, and I just want her to be able to rise up and see the fruit of her labor with all of this that's coming to pass. So I definitely they'll take a little second there to just kind of regather my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been an exciting day in the Freebird project. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to present the Freebird project, or them in on the new name, but I went up in front of a Dragon's Den style group of investors in my local community, and we had an amazing conversation, and I actually have a recording of that conversation, so I will share some snippets of it a little later after I get to some editing. But I did do that today, so I felt really brave and really accomplished being able to, because there were moments I thought, oh, I was going to lose my breakfast because it's really scary to go up in front of people that you respect and honor and hope they're not going to make fun of your ideas. So there's a little bit of that.
Yes, there is that
going on.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great, because I was trying to set it up that I wouldn't need this, and it appears that I've been successful. I'm just so excited for you. What we're going to talk about tonight is the gift of abundance and attracting abundance into our lives. And most of the time when I talk about this topic, I'm really talking about the financial aspect. But because of the nature of this Freebird project or this Free to Fly online conference, I want to just kind of take a pause that what I'm talking about today is not just about money. It's about everything in life. And there's a lot of times we're in situations, especially many of the survivors who would be watching these podcasts or these videos, you're in this situation that you cannot change. You're in a situation that you cannot make better. Well, one thing we can always change and one thing we can always keep is our own mindset. And when we begin to adopt an abundance mindset, doors open up for us. And so as we go through the material tonight, I'd like everyone not to wonder whether or not this can apply to you. Ask, how can this apply to me? Because I find that whether it's trying to lose weight, whether it's trying to do well in school after a long hiatus taking care of the kids, whether it's trying to improve our lives, getting out of a very difficult domestic situation, when we begin to really harness the power of our mind, we can put it towards that task and break free in ways that we haven't been able to before. We can, I look at money very similar to losing weight. We can do everything by the book. We can work out every day. We can eat all the healthy food. We can stay away from the fat and the grease. And we can stay away from the red and the blue dye if you're sensitive to it like I am. We can do everything right. But if our mind is constantly saying how much I hate my life and I hate this situation and I hate that I can't have red jelly beans, then all we are attracting into our life is more negativity. And I did not realize that. Like, I would think that focusing on the things that I don't like, that's how I spur myself to change them and to make those changes that bring me the positive results that I want. But instead, it's just like they, you hear the quotes, you are what you think about, you are what you focus on, whatever you put out there is what you're attracting. And that's, if you've ever seen the movie The Secret, or if you've ever listened to Nightingale's I'm drawing a blank. But Nightingale has a good recording on that, and that's the crux of it, is you are what you think about, so controlling our mind. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today, because we can do everything right, whether it's money, and just like my example with losing weight. When I am not losing weight when I need to, it's generally because my mindset is too focused on the negative, and my body is internalizing all that negativity. And so today we're going to talk about giving ourselves the gift of abundance, giving ourselves a precious gift that no one can take away from us. It's one of my newest webinars, and we do have a course that's coming in January 7th. We're going to be doing a course on this, and I'm not going to necessarily go through that today because I don't have it up yet for people to register unless they're already in my other course. But you can go to jjconway.org, and you can find that probably next weekend. That information will be up for the course by itself. What we want to talk about, depending on how much time we have today, is really kind of walking through how to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, and how we can fall into the trap of a scarcity mindset without even realizing it. Another thing that we're going to want to talk about a little bit today is exposing some of these money traps, these life traps that kind of hold us back. And so there's a book that I read years ago called Reinvent Your Life. And even if you don't buy the book, I encourage you to look it up on Amazon, because even the comments are worth reading if you can't afford the book right now. But it's a really good book about life traps that suck us in. They're these thoughts and attitudes, and that turn into beliefs. They suck us in, and then we don't even understand why we're doing some of the things that we do. We don't understand some of the self-destructive behaviors that we might be engaging in. All we know is we were going one way, and we were trying to make something happen, and all of a sudden we got stuck over here. And we don't even understand sometimes how that happens. And he has a really good, clear, doesn't speak down to you, kind of way of explaining that. And it was really a blessing to me years ago. And so then the last thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a action plan, a 7-step plan to talk about how we move ourselves into that life of attracting abundance. And so just as a personal example for myself, I found a couple years ago when I was still a single mom and just really struggling to make it. I mean, things were better, but they just weren't awesome yet. And I found in myself that I was just not, I had money, but I had goals. And I was watching other people that didn't have any money, and they were spending money like crazy. And it was eating away at my heart, because I wanted to go have fun, and I wanted to take my son to the game, and I wanted to go do all these things. But I had just climbed out of one of the most devastating physical, mental, and financial catastrophes that could ever have happened to me. And I just didn't want to go back to that place. I wanted to keep those reserves. I wanted to take the financial steps that I knew were going to secure our future. And as I began to kind of look at ways to encourage myself, someone talked about how if you help others, then you will begin to help yourself. So I started volunteering more. Now, I've always had a volunteer heart. I feel that that's one of the things that keeps you grounded. And in all my financial classes, it's very essential to me that we do give back, because as we build wealth and as we improve our lives, if we don't stay grounded by helping those less fortunate, then we are not going to be able to keep ourselves centered. And we might risk, not everybody, but we might risk 10 years from now being a person we don't want to be. And so I always recommend that whether it's helping those that are in need, or whether it's just working with children, or whatever it is that speaks to your heart, find something to get involved in. And so I got involved, and as I was getting involved, free things began to come to me, because hey, our countries, North America, I'm sure Canada does as well, but I know at least here in the United States, they value their volunteers. And when you volunteer, all of a sudden you get access to free things. People donate stuff, or you get reduced prices on food boxes and things like that. And as I began to focus more on the positive, more positive began to come. And so then I ended up with this, what I like to call Facebook fabulous life. Like, I was going to all these galas, and I was going to all these games, and taking my boy here and taking him there. And this was before the baby was born. But you would think that I just had so much money, but I didn't have any more money than I had a year ago. All I had was a different mindset. And instead of the scarcity, woe is me, I can't stand my life, I'm so tired of this mindset, it was, this is a wonderful world. There are some bad pockets and some bad people, and I'm going to navigate around those the best I can. But overall, there are a lot of good people out there. I surround myself with good people, and good things come to me. And blessing after blessing came to me. I mean, you just would not believe, if you look, and Patricia, I know you're a friend of mine on Facebook now, and if you went back and dug through those couple of years, you would be shocked at how little discretionary spending I had, but we had the most full life. And that's what really got me started in teaching an abundance lifestyle. Because even though I'm a financial planner and my tagline is building wealth together, wealthy life is not just about money in the bank. I want money in the bank. I hope everybody in my classes get money in the bank. I am all about money in the bank.
That helps keep the roof over the head and the belly's full. But afterwards, there's got to be some fun in it. Like, we are all about fun at the Freebird Project shop. I mean, it's dancing and it's laughter, because those things are part of an abundant life too. I mean,
yes,
money's pretty cold on its own.
Money will not keep you warm at night. Now, it could buy you an electric blanket, but it will not buy you relationships, and it will not buy you your health. And so whenever we do any kind of our courses, we always focus on the 3 pillars. It's not just about money. It's about your body, and it's about your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being. And so in fact, I actually have a separate class for those who are religious that looks at Christian myths that actually stress poverty and wealth and keep people bound. So that's a whole separate thing. We're not really going to have time to get into that stuff today. But for any of your listeners that find themselves conflicted with wanting to enjoy life and have an abundant life, and feeling like their expression of religion is due to poverty, they feel called to a life of poverty, but because other people are trying to put that on them, I encourage them to come talk to me later, or find me on Facebook or what have you, because, some people do have that calling, and I'm just thankful right now I'm not one of them. But, I have been at one time. So, so really what we want to do, we want to kind of look at ourselves and want to look around at our life. And the very first thing that I said we wanted to do is kind of look through some reflection about the scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. And so we want to look at, okay, do I have a scarcity mindset? We may not even realize that we are harboring a scarcity mindset, because we may be very generous people. And it's really easy to be generous. I actually found it was easier for me to be more generous when I didn't have anything than it was for me to be generous when I had. Because when I didn't have anything, I got used to living with nothing. And when I didn't have anything, I didn't really need much. And so when something came, hey, I didn't have a problem sharing with you. But then once I got out of that hole, and once I got something in my pocket, now wait a second, you want me to share what I've got? Oh no, I'm trying to hold on to everything I've got. But the problem is, when we're holding on like this, when we're holding our fists closed and we're holding on to everything, we are not open to receiving. And so we want to shift from a closed perspective to an open perspective. And we know that we're in a closed perspective I'm just going to tell on myself now. I'm not going to talk about anybody, but if this resonates with any of your audience tonight, then they can internalize and reflect and meditate upon this for themselves. But I know that I have fallen into a scarcity mindset when I only see 2 of a sale item at the store, and I feverishly grab because I want to make sure I get it. Or when I'm going somewhere and I see that somebody needs some help, and I'm super into myself, and I don't want to get my clothes dirty, or I don't want to get myself dirty, or I don't want to get into it. It's not because I'm late, or not because I got to go pick up my kids, or something that would be a legal excuse, but I just don't want to be bothered. Well, then now I'm getting into scarcity of time and scarcity of person, or when it's time for me to go and take care of my body, but I don't want to do the things that I need to do to take care of my body. I'd rather go get this candy bar that's going to take me 30 seconds to unwrap rather than go pull out my blender, which I have timed. This thing literally only takes 4 minutes to blend my salad, pour it in a cup, rinse it all out. It's so fantastic, but yet I still will not use it because I'm in a time scarce mentality. And instead of focusing on the long-term value of putting that green goodness into my body, I'm looking at the short-term value of the 3.5 minutes I'm going to save. Never mind the fact that it's 240 extra calories that I'm going to have to spend 2.5 hours burning off later. But we get into these scarcity mindsets, whether it's in our bodies, or whether it's in our relationships, or whether it's with our money. And we think, well, if I just hold on, then I'm going to be better off. And you know what? A lot of times it's when we let go, especially emotionally. When we let go of ourselves and stop worrying about what other people think and all that stuff, then we're able to really receive. We're open to receive the goodness. We're open to receive goodness of relationships, goodness of people coming into our lives, where our hands are available monetarily. We've given, and now our hands are open for people to put free tickets into our hands, to put free food into our hands, to put clothing into our hands, to put whatever it is that we need. I have had people put lessons for my son into my hands. I have had people meet every need, things that I couldn't even imagine that someone would think that I would need, but I needed it, and there it appeared. The Lord just sent it in, that positive mindset. So we want to take a look at our own self. And again, just like with the losing weight example, if there's an area of our life where we are struggling, we're working as hard as we can and nothing is changing the way it needs to, then we need to stop and examine and meditate and do some self-reflection on whether or not we are holding on to a negative or scarcity mindset. And so then we want to look at some of the little money life traps that might be holding us back. And so, there's a lot of different ones. I kind of already covered religion. Religion is a big one. And I'm a very religious person. You probably saw that come through. And as I talk, I'm a very spiritual person. And I believe that everything in the universe is connected. And I believe that what we put out there, we get back. And I find that a lot of times people have either used religion in the past, or they currently use religion as control over people, or as a way to get money from people, or just as a way for them to boost up their own egos, rather than empowering the person that we are serving with religion, which is really, in my opinion, what it's supposed to be. Now, that's not what this talk is about, so I'll get off that soapbox. But the thing about religion is, as a financial planner, I find that many of the people that I try to help are really bound in by some myths and fallacies, and the poverty fallacy is one of the biggest ones. Yes, there are people of all faiths and all religions who are called to a life of poverty. But let me ask you and your audience this question. If all of the good people of the world were called to a vow of poverty, who would fund the good works? If all of the people who have a heart to help others and to pull up others when they are in need have taken a vow of poverty, who has the money to fund the work, to fund the hospitals, to pay for that? The Good Samaritan came along. He picked this man up off the street who was bleeding and messed up and had been beaten and robbed. He took him to the inn. He paid for his medical care. He paid for his stay at the inn. He paid for his food, and then told the guy, take care of him as long as he needs. That's my paraphrase. I'm not quoting scripture. It's just my paraphrase. Take care of the guy as long as he needs, and I'll come back and pay you. And not only did he have the financial ability to do that, but he had the financial reputation that the innkeeper believed he would. And so if only good people are poor, who's going to be that good Samaritan? I would suggest that there are some of us on the call today who have been called to be that good Samaritan, but we have not been able to accumulate what we need to have in order to bless and help someone else, because we have been trapped by a lifetime that says only good people are poverty stricken, or people who have wealth are not good. People who have wealth are evil and they're dirty. And that's not necessarily true. And you can find examples in all faiths of people who have used their wealth to help others, to build up temples and to raise up churches and to do this and to do that. And I'm not saying that we don't have an issue with building too much wealth and not staying grounded, but that's why I always recommend that my students stay grounded by giving of themselves. So we want to examine ourselves. Is there something especially related to money that we have in our mind that's holding us back? Another thing, another big life trap that I think may resonate with this particular audience is the feeling that we cannot break free monetarily because maybe we're not cute enough, or maybe we don't have enough talent. We're not a singer. We don't play a great musical instrument. We're not a superstar on the football field. We don't have something like that to offer. So how can we possibly make any more money than where we are right now? I'm stuck in this dead-end job and there's nothing else I know how to do. I'm not smart enough to go off and be a doctor. I'm not cool enough to go off and be a rock star. What can I do to bring in more money? I can't do anything else. I'm just stuck here. That's a negative mindset. And so many of us are stuck in that mindset. And it keeps us from ever breaking free and looking around and saying, hey, I have this thing that I can offer. And Zig Ziglar says, when you help enough other people get what they want out of life, you can have everything you want out of life. It's just a matter of finding what it is that you're passionate about, what it is that you can offer, what it is that someone else is willing to pay for, and what it is that you can solve. And the next talk that I'm going to do with you all, Patricia, I'm going to actually go into that. I'm going to give examples of how somebody can determine those passions for themselves, and we walk through which ones are profitable and which ones aren't. And I'm actually going to tell on myself. I'm going to walk you through 4 of my passions, and I'm going to walk you through why this one didn't work, and this one didn't work, and this one didn't work, and bingo, finance worked. And so it's a little self-introspection that people can use to really work. So I hope that you all will be on that workshop because it's going to be a good one. It's one of my most successful talks that I've done. So
That's
we want
awesome.
to look.
I just wanted to say, because I mean, over the years, I started 19 years ago, over 19 years ago with my first home business, and it hasn't stayed the same through the years. And I just want to, put out there that, change is okay. It's okay to have many passions and follow them and get where you're intending in the end.
It's a journey. It's a journey, and things change. I mean, think about telephone books. Back in the day when I first opened up my first online boutique, I was so excited to get my little ad for $500. It was a lot of money, but my little ad in the phone book, man, I had hit the big time. I was in the phone book, right? And then, websites had just started coming out. So, of course, you had to have your www. And man, I was feeling something about myself. But who reads phone books anymore? I mean, well, I don't know about in Canada, but here in the States, a lot of people just go Google something, or we look on Google Maps or something. And so, exactly. And so it's like, okay, well, it's not to feel bad that, maybe back in the day I was the best telephone salesperson ever. Maybe I did make a lot of money delivering phone books, but now the times have changed, so we have to change with it. But that's okay. It just means we have to change, but we cannot allow that change to bind us and lock us into saying, well, the only thing I was ever good at was phone books. No, there's a whole world out there. There are things out there that are going to be popular in 2 years from now that none of us have even heard of right now. And you could be the next big thing. You could have the next big idea. Or you might find the person who does and be able to capitalize off of their idea, There's so much out there, but we won't see it if we're so busy being stuck in a scarcity mindset. But when we start to take on a mindset of abundance, we begin to look around and we see everything around us. And we begin to see opportunity here and opportunity there. And maybe we go down this path and that opportunity doesn't work out. Or maybe it only works out for a week or a month or a year or 2 years or 5 years. And then we have to change. But the fact is we're following the opportunity and we're living our lives. We're living an abundant life instead of being stuck in our state of bondage. So we want to kind of look at some of these money life traps. And again, I encourage you to get the book, Reinvent Your Life, and to do some searching online. That's been written about a lot more now since he wrote the book. But there are a lot of things that we believe that really trap us. And it's one of those where the minute you break free from that, you instantly see a change in your life. Like the minute I realized I did not have to be poor to be a good person, instant change in my life. The minute I realized I did not have to have money to have a full life, instant change in my life. Now, do I have money? Yes, I have money. Thank goodness. I'm so happy. I have some money in my pocket. I can do things like shop in the Freebird shop.
Yeah, and we love that. And
I'm so glad.
Part of the whole process and why the Freebird Project shops and why it works, because and this is something that I learned from a workshop that I went to, or a keynote speaker I saw a couple of years ago. And it was about the fact that women in North America control 70% of the sales in the country. And so why shouldn't we be putting it towards the things that mean something to us? And so in this particular author's case, she created a line of perfumes where the flowers, the essences of these perfumes come from war-torn countries, so that they have an option not to grow drug crops, but to grow floral crops instead. And we're buying perfume anyways. Why not help something that helps somebody in a war-torn country? And when we do things like that, and with the Freebird Project shop, when you buy from us, a portion goes to helping somebody. I mean, that's why we call it freedom through fashion, because you get the freedom of these beautiful clothes, and there's the freedom on the other side for the people that we hope to help.
Exactly. And if no one had money, who would buy the clothes?
Exactly.
So it's just, it really is one of those things where we have to take a look at ourselves and what are we limiting ourselves with, and we have to break free of those things. And so one of the things that I want to kind of, as we've established those two concepts, one, that we have to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset where there is enough for everyone. We can build wealth together. We can help each other. I don't have to control everything myself. I can let go and let goodness come to me. And then the other one of, I can take myself and break free myself by exploring and introspection and finding these different life traps, or whatever life traps might be holding us back. I want to kind of look at what we would need to do then to build generational wealth. And I've already touched on a lot of this, but I just kind of want to sum it up real quick for those who will be watching later. One of the very first things that we have to do is really affect that mindset change, because behavior follows thoughts. And so, once we think about something enough times and we start to do it, and once we start to do something enough time, then we start to really internalize that and it becomes us. And so that's why you ever see those little cards that you can do affirmations, daily affirmations, or if you go in a lot of business classes and sales classes, they'll tell you before you go do something, say, I am going to win. I am great. I am going to succeed. I'm going to make this deal happen. You say it to yourself over and over and over. You begin to believe it. You begin to internalize it. And not only that, you begin to manifest it. And that's what we want to do in our lives when we focus on the positive, instead of manifesting the negative that we've been thinking about all day. Oh, nobody loves me. Nobody likes me. I hate myself. I hate my life. We start reframing that into the positive. Well, I may not be perfect, but I'm awesome, and I'm going to love myself with unconditionally the way I am right now. Well, I don't like this situation, but I'm doing everything I can to make my life better. Or, I may not like this job, but it meets the need right now, and I'm taking the steps I have to take to have a better job and a better life. And the more we say these things to ourselves, I may not like my appearance right now, but I love myself the way I am. I may not like what I see in the mirror, but I'm going to be gentle and honest with myself and do the best I can to change. The more we say these things, the more we begin to attract abundance, and the more we begin to shift our mind into a positive frame. That doesn't change the fact that people are still mean. It doesn't change the fact that people are still wrong. It doesn't change the fact that somebody's boss might still be a jerk. It doesn't change any of that. It doesn't change the fact that we're still broke. But what it changes is our energy. And when our energy begins to change, then our interactions with the world begin to change. And I find for myself, I'll give you an example from last weekend. Me and my girlfriend ran this race called the Spartan Race. And, I haven't lost all the baby weight yet, so I was a lot bigger than I wanted to be. But we were going to go through this obstacle course race anyway. You had to haul things and climb on things and climb over walls and swim through swamps. And it was just nasty. And it was an accomplishment physically. But one of the biggest things about the race for us was that you could not do it alone. Some of the guys could. Some girls I'm sure could too. Some women I'm sure could, but I could not do it alone. When I got to those tall walls, I needed someone to boost me up. And the first we were going, I was really getting frustrated because I didn't feel like people wanted to help me as they wanted to help my cute friend. So I was getting a little bit frustrated, like, look, I'm here too, help me too. And then I realized I'm being negative. I showed up negative. And I told myself, this ends now. I'm not going to worry about size. I'm not going to worry about what other people think. We're all here together to finish this race, and we're going to work together. That's the whole premise of the race. I'm going to reframe my thinking and start putting out positive energy. And the whole rest of the way, people were offering to help. People were doing all these things. But I was so wrapped up in my negativity of this and that I was subconsciously attracting that negativity into my life. And so he's like, what does that have to do with money? Well, it's the same with money.
Concept. It's
all the same
concept. It's about that attitude of gratitude in the moment and catching yourself, because none of this is natural. It's something that you'll realize you're doing it much faster as you practice it. In the beginning, you'll get into a little bit of a slump, for lack of a better word, before you realize you're in it. Whereas as you practice it, you get there a lot. Oh, wait a second, where'd that thought come from? And it becomes easier.
And it really is those slumps. Like for me, I notice I'm becoming negative when people stop helping me in the store, where they stop holding the doors, or where they stop offering to get something for me. And it sounds strange because I'm a very independent, strong woman and I can take care of myself. But I have become accustomed, ever since I have really focused on shifting from the negative mindset to the positive mindset, I have become accustomed to everywhere I go, people are helping me. People are giving me free stuff. People are giving me free discounts, or not free discounts, but, significant discounts. People are including a little extra, I'm used to that now. That's my lifestyle now. When those blessings dry up, I have to stop and say, why are these blessings drying up? Why are people steering clear of me in the store? Usually people want to come up to me and talk my ear off, and I have to be like, I really need to go take care of my kids. Why are people avoiding me? Why is nobody, can't they all see I'm reaching up here? Why is nobody offering to help me? It's generally because I have lost track of something and I have slipped back into a negative mindset. But I want to attract abundance. So just like you said, when we see ourselves in that slump, I have to take a step back and think about what's going on and then reframe my life. It doesn't change the problem, but it changes how I attack the problem, and it changes how I attract into my life other things that will help me solve the problem, how I attract into my life other things that will help me financially. Like I said earlier, we get so many free tickets and so many free opportunities, and those opportunities may not put food on my table, but they free up funds that I can then use to put food on my table and still not feel deprived when I don't have everything that I want to have. So the other thing, and we've kind of touched on this quite a bit too, so I won't spend a long time on it. Step 2 of my 4-pillar thing, and I don't have my slide for you, but it's basically a house with 4 pillars, and these are your 4 pillars. One is your mindset, and the other is being rooted and grounded. Number 2, being rooted and grounded in something larger than yourself. And you've probably picked up that for me, it is my faith, it is the Lord. But I know that a lot of people may not necessarily share my faith, but it's all about something larger than yourself that you can plug into. And you'll find, this is something that really surprised me, a lot of the great business leaders out there, Zig Ziglar, even some of the great scientists like Albert Einstein. I have a scientific background. I've been a physicist in the military for a long time. I found that a lot of great people found solace, comfort, and grounding in being connected to something larger than themselves, most notably their faith. So I would encourage, as we look around us, what can we do that takes our focus off of ourselves and allows us to be connected to something greater? Okay. And then the third pillar is really sound stewardship of what we've been given. And this is the tough one, because when I was broke, it was easy to be good with money. When you don't have any money, you really can't spend too much. You can't waste money you don't have. Well, we can now because we have credit cards and we have all these other little ways to finagle running up debt that we didn't used to have. But for the most part, I found in my life that it was a lot easier to be a good steward of what I had when I really had to make a little bit stretch a long way. Once I had plenty of money to work with, it was really easy to go a month or two without paying attention to what was in my bank account. And I know some of you are like, what? Who does that? Lots of people do that. They pay me well to help them get their stuff together. So we want to have sound stewardship, and we want to manage well what we've been given. That doesn't only mean money. It means our time, our food, our relationships, our family. I can tell my children I love them. And I can tell them every night when I put them to bed, I love you, I love you, I love you. But if I never spend any time with them, they are not going to feel loved. And it's going to be lip service. It's not going to be real. And it's the same thing with anything that's important to us in our lives, whether it's nurturing a business, nurturing a relationship, managing our money. If we never spend time attending to the things that are important to us, those things then wither and die. But if we spend a little bit of time managing, we budget our time, we budget our food, we budget those things so that we make sure we've captured the important stuff. So I literally look at my calendar and I look and see, okay, do I have enough time in here that I'm focused on my little man? Do I have enough time in here where I'm focused on the baby? Do I have enough time in here where I'm focused on the Mr. Man? Because if I don't keep the big man happy, well, there's going to be issues later on. And he's a very patient man, but he's not going to be patient forever, for years and years and years, if I ignore him so I can pursue a business or pursue a ministry or even spend time with the kids. So I look at all those things in a sense of having to really budget as in a sense. We always talk about budget as far as money, but we're really looking at this kind of a discipline for all these other areas. Like, I have 1,000 calories. Well, I have 1,400 calories I'm going to eat today.
Resources. It's all resources in the end, whether it's calories or money or our time. It's all resources and what we have available to us. We have to make
it is. But a lot of times we don't even think of it that way. I'm so used to counting calories, and I'm like, okay, I know I want this shake, so I'm going to eat vegetables the rest of the day. And I budget those calories in my mind, but I don't stop to think, okay, I've got 24 hours in a day. I'm going to spend about 6 of those sleeping. I'm going to spend another 8 of those at work. I need to spend time with him, and him. I got 3 boys, or 2 boys and a man that I need to spend time with. And then I need to spend time with my students, and I need to spend time with the ministry, and I need to spend time doing this, and this. But if I don't ever sit down and think about it, what am I doing, and plan it out and really work on it, I'm going to find myself slipping back into a negative and scarcity mindset because I'll become overwhelmed and I have too much to do and I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. Whereas if part of having an abundance mindset is really that planning, because it frees me to have an abundant positive mindset, because I'm not stressed about juggling everything. And I'm not stressed about making 20 million commitments because I haven't planned out and I was telling everybody yes without writing it down or thinking that I could do this. Now I have certain times of the week that I know I can say yes to something. Monday nights, I can say yes because I keep Monday nights free so that I can say yes for business things. Certain other nights, I say yes for these things, these types of things, because I've already made my mind that that's what I'm going to do on that particular night. So when an opportunity arises, if it fits into my Monday block or if it fits into my Thursday block, I'm there. But I've had to make that change so that I can continue to be positive. And so I'm just throwing out some things for folks because everybody's different, and what works for me may not work for everybody, but it gives you some things to think about as to what will work for you to free you of stress, to free you of feeling overwhelmed, to free you of feeling like I'm doing a million different things and I'm getting nowhere because I can't do any of them well. Instead of those million different things, we cut it out to 10 or so that we can actually do. Or maybe, there was a time in my life I could barely get one thing done a day. I was in such despair and just so miserable and just not sure how I was going to pull myself out of this hole. And I thought my life was over. I could literally get one thing done a day, and that would be a huge accomplishment, because most days I couldn't even get one thing done unless that one thing was come home and crawl into bed. So it's wherever you're at in life, sound stewardship of what we have will free us mentally. It sounds like work, and it sounds like it's not fun. Like, we want to have fun. We want to have this abundant life. We want to party. We want to have a great time. And the steward, what's that?
Work comes first.
Well, the work comes first, but for me, planning these things out frees me to be spontaneous, frees me to have that kind of fun, frees me to get visits from the baby who should be with his mom. Oh, here we go. This is come on in. These are my big whys. When I teach my classes, I always say you have to have a big enough why to pull you through the day. And these two little fellows are my big why. Mwah. All right. So the last thing would then be to give abundantly. And we've talked about staying rooted and grounded. And so when we give, that allows us to really express that we trust, and that openness and that trusting, that gives our mindset to be able to receive. Okay, so now we've kind of talked about some of the money life traps. We've talked about the shifting from scarcity to abundance. Now I'm going to do the action plan, and we're going to wrap this up in about a couple minutes here, because I've covered a lot of this. So I'm just going to go through the steps. It's a 7-step process from shifting from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. First of all, there is enough for everyone to live an abundant life. We have to realize there is enough. That's why my tagline is building wealth together, because I don't have to tear you down to build wealth. There's enough out there. If we work together, we can build more. So for example, you're a marketing expert. I'm a finance expert. If we work together, we can help more people, make more money, and have more fun than if we try to do it all on our own, because I don't know anything about marketing. You actually know a lot about money, so I don't know if I can help you there, but I'm at least a cool speaker to have on your show.
Absolutely. And most of what I learned was, long ago. I'm a little older than you, and so a lot of it, but, and a lot of it for me is I know what to do, but I'm not always exactly doing it. So I'm not the best, what's the word? Exhibit, or I'm starting to do the adult things, because when I was in my relationship, as much as I wanted to do the adult things, there were other people making other decisions that didn't make it possible. And then when I had the opportunity to finally get things and do them in an adult way, it took a while to catch up on the old bad decisions. So we're still in recovery from that, or I'm still in recovery from that, but I am more adult now than I was. But I mean, we lived for so long without an emergency fund and without money in the bank. Like, we were literally the paycheck to paycheck type people, and there was no excuse for it other than bad decision making. So that's where I come from. It's more that style. And what I know about marketing, that's one of those things that I've just been really passionate about. And for me, it's not so much about marketing, but about finding the target market, whether it's in publicity or whether it's in writing or whether it's in anything. For me, the real joy is in figuring out who I'm talking to and finding their language. That's my thing.
Oh, and you're good at it too. You have such a great ability to connect with anyone. And that's why I think that you would definitely be the kind of person that could accept point number 2 without any hesitation. And that is focusing on building wealth together, finding people around us who's, when we all get together, our sum is greater than our parts. I mean, you've already experienced the blessing that comes from, what do they call that? Man, I am.
I call it Sesame Street. I always say that I learned about community and cooperation on Sesame Street. That's where so much of where my beliefs about business come from.
Well, it's important, and too many of us feel like if I let somebody else into my life, then I have to expose myself a little bit to them. I have to be more vulnerable. But what I've realized is that by assembling a team around me of people who genuinely, we're all trying to get to the same place, and they have skills that are complementary to my life, skills that I don't really possess, or that I may be able to do. I may be able to do a 1040 EZ on my own, but as I get investments and all that stuff, I need my CPA to come in and do all this other tax filing that I can't do on my own. And so surrounding myself with those folks and recognizing that when we build together, when we build wealth together, the sum is greater than the parts. Synergy, that's the word I was looking for. It's the synergy of getting us all together, and we're all on the same path, and we make it happen greater. The third step is inviting abundance into my life daily with my thoughts, my behaviors, my associations, and my attitudes. And sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. You know, that I remember a couple years ago when I first became divorced, and I just felt like, you know, I was told all how fat and ugly I was and how no one was ever going to want me, and I was just so useless and blah, 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 blah. And I really internalized all that, and I was watching a documentary, and she said, take a Post-it note or something and put it on your mirror and says, I accept myself as I am right now. And it was so hard for me to write those words. I accept myself as I am right now. And I was just in tears. And it took maybe about 3 weeks of seeing that every morning for me to get to the point where I wasn't in tears. I still didn't believe it, but at least I wasn't in tears anymore when I saw it. And now when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I'm not perfect, but you know what? I am who I am, and I'm doing the best I can. And I roll on, and I don't even think about it. But years ago, I couldn't even do that for myself. I couldn't even hug myself and tell myself, you know what? I accept you, warts and all. I could do that for somebody else. If somebody else came to me with the problem, I could be like, oh, it's okay, baby. It's going to be okay. It's okay. You're going to get there one day. Don't worry about it. Don't make yourself feel so sad. But when it came to me, it was like, oh, just beating myself up. So we invite abundance into our life daily with our thoughts, behaviors, associations, attitudes. And if we have to force the issue by putting something up on the mirror and saying I love myself, or I accept myself, or whatever it is that we're trying to overcome, then that's what we have to do until we get there, until we've internalized it. Number 4, I remain focused on abundance by minimizing the impact of negativity on my life. And that's one of those that can be really difficult. Hey, Philip, come get him. That's one of those that can be really difficult because we sometimes don't even realize that the effect that other people's negativity is having, or the effect that our negativity is having. And so what we have to do is have an introspective time where we recognize that there is negativity in the world, and then we take the steps that we need to take to make sure that we minimize its impact on our life. Somebody comes in and robs us. Well, there's not much we can do about the fact that they robbed us if the police can't help us get our stuff back. But we can take steps to prevent ourselves from being robbed again, and we can take steps to combat the negativity that follows that tells us there's no good in people, and I hate all people, and people are mean, and nobody cares, and nobody loves. That's not true. There was a bad apple that came in here and did something to you, and it's unfortunate that you had to go through that, but you are a survivor, and you are strong, and you can overcome this, and it doesn't have to cancel out all of your good hope in humanity. So we want to make sure that we are taking that active step of minimizing the impact of negativity on our lives. And number 5 is I prepare my body, soul, and spirit to receive abundance. Basically taking care of myself through exercise, prayer, meditation, daily study, self-improvement, those kinds of things, so that we are ready to receive. Because like I was saying before, I had to come to this realization for myself. You could build all the wealth you want to build, but if you're not healthy enough to enjoy it, and if you don't have solid relationships around you, then how are you ever going to enjoy that wealth? How are you ever going to do any good with it? You know, I've always thought of myself as a great person growing up, but I had to come to the realization that you could have money to throw at a problem, and people don't want your help if they don't like you. And that was a harsh reality for me to realize that I had not taken the time to curate the relationships around me. I had allowed them to wither and die as I pursued my own wealth and as I pursued what I thought was my calling. But the thing is you can have a calling and you can have a goal and you can have a wealth that you want to attain. But when you get there, if you've got a trail of broken hearts and a trail of unnurtured relationships that have just withered and died, you've got nothing. And so, but on the flip side, though, you may not have achieved that goal yet. But if you have been nurturing relationships along the way, you can have an abundant life and you've just started on your journey. And that's so wonderful to know that it's not about the number in the bank. It's not about what we have or don't have. It's about our attitude and the quality of the life that we're building around ourselves. Number 6, I remain humble enough to learn from those who have paved the way and found success. And that's especially important in this digital age because a lot of times we think that the old ways don't work anymore. And I'm finding the older I get, the more and more I'm finding that the old ways still do work and that we really need to learn from those who have gone on before us and not negate all of their blood, sweat, and tears that they had in paving the way for us to get where we are today. And so, that's actually the very first point in my book, Stop Blocking Your Legacy, that I had to come to. I was about doing everything the way that I thought it was, modern. I'm going to do all this stuff, and I don't need those old tactics anymore. No, the old tactics and the old relationship building and the grip and grin and meeting the person's need and finding out what they really need and working those relationships, those are the kinds of things that really bear fruit later on. And so we have to remain humble enough to learn and maybe improve upon, because everything as life changes can be improved upon. And I tell my son all the time, you do things the way I tell you to do it right now. And as you gain experience, you will improve on what I do because the world is changing, technology is changing. You're going to find better ways to do it. But right now, you do what mom says and you look and see the results. And then only after you've done it my way do I want you to come and tell me how you've been able to improve. And 9 times out of 10, my way was the best way. And as he gets older, I'm sure it's going to be more and more and more times that his way is actually better because he is a pretty smart cookie. But we want to remain humble enough. And then finally, number 7, because I wrap myself in gratitude for the blessings I've received and will receive, I am freely able to give. I no longer have to feel like I'm going to hoard everything, that the only way to have something in life is just to keep everybody else from having it. Instead, I have learned to be grateful and to release what I have been given. And in releasing and sharing what I've been given freely with others, I receive more in return. And so number 7 is wrapping ourselves in that gratitude for the blessings that we have received and will receive, so that we will continually be able to freely give. And I personally feel that being able to give really is the secret to attracting abundance in our lives. And in order to freely give, we have to have that positive mindset. And in order to freely give, we have to love and accept ourselves as we are. And in order to freely give, we have to let go of wanting to have everything for ourselves and not trusting that what we need will be there when we need it. So that is what I have for you today. I hope that has been fun, and that I hope that will be a real blessing and encouragement to your audience as they go to watch these in the future.
Absolutely. And we have had a couple of viewers popping in. I'm not as techie with all this stuff as Sasha is, so I can't see whether there are any questions, so I apologize. But if you do have any questions, do put them in the comments. I'm sure Janine will come along later and answer them, because I know that you had left a comment on your last video here, so we can communicate that way. And we'll hope that Sasha can come home and join us soon. In the meanwhile, thank you so much, because this is the type of information that people really do need to know. I know that it sounds so simple in a lot of ways, and that's precisely why it is so hard, because it sounds so simple that we think it can't possibly work. So we fight it every step of the way. People say, write something down and you'll be closer to achieving your goal. Wow, that can't possibly work. It's way too easy, and you don't write it down. So it doesn't help. Just let it go and try. And you will be surprised at how things do shift and change. They are old fashioned, but that's precisely why they work. A lot of these things are thousands of years old. They are not new age, or I know that there's a what's the word, the impression that a lot of this about the attitude of gratitude and about positive thinking, there's a thought that this is new age, or this is something that just came up, and it's not. It's ancient. It's pretty much ancient wisdom, and it is as simple as starting to follow it one step at a time. It's like we've been talking about throughout this entire Free to Fly online conference and fashion show. It's those little steps. Taking one and going from there. It doesn't have to be any bigger than that. It can just be little. And some days that's all you're going to be able to. As she mentioned, there are some times, especially going through some of those darker phases, whether it is illness in the family or a toxic abusive relationship or an earthquake, or there can be 1,002 reasons why life isn't as bright or as wonderful as you would want it to be. And that's when you have to remember those little baby steps, and remember that there's support out there. Whatever you're going through, you are not alone. There are like how many billion people on the planet now? You are not alone, and we're all connected now through these wonderful the wonderful technology that we have with the internet. You're not alone. If there's and when you do start to listen back and listen to what JJ has said tonight, the gift of abundance is within your reach. It is not magic, it is science, and it does work when you apply it. Do you have any final thoughts before we say goodnight?
I just want to thank you, and I want to thank Sasha. I'll definitely keep her lifted up, and I just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it, and I would encourage your audience to come visit me on the web at jjconway.org. There's a wealth of good information there, and I love to give away free stuff. So if you want to empower yourself and get in on some of that abundance, go ahead to my website, and I'll be there for you.
Absolutely, living that give to get phenomenon. And that's the thing, when you are doing what you're preaching and walking the walk, so to speak, then you are going to run into a lot of wonderful things and wonderful connections along the way. I could not be here 19 years later without the support of the hundreds of women that I've connected with over the years through networking and through, all of you that have met through the last few weeks with this online conference. It has been phenomenal. And so if you are out there, reach out to JJ, reach out to us at the Freebird Project, and do stay tuned because we do have some phenomenal guests. We have Lorna is coming up, and she's actually from Alberta, just like me. It's amazing. And she's coming on later this week, and she's going to be talking about that of being a caregiver. And being a caregiver can be very difficult, and she's going to have a lot of tips for us on how to get through and navigate that scenario. I haven't personally been in it. Well, actually, I can't even say that. At one point, my mother-in-law was quite ill and lived with us, so I lived with it for a short while, but I know that there's many out there that have drawn out experiences with caregiving, and I know that it can be very draining and that you need a lot of support. So come and get that support later this week. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for being a part of the Freebird Project shop.com. Be sure to make your purchase where you'll find freedom through fashion.
Yeah.